Welcome back to a very, very extra special bonus episode of ReconCinemation. I'm your host, John Diner, and we have a surprise, what I'll call a panel today. We are missing our usual co-host, Brent, who's on assignment right now. He's trying to get into the Oscars himself. He's trying to, maneuver his way into the show. He's got, a week to do so. So he's getting ahead of it. But I'm going to introduce our other regular co-host, David Munchak. Welcome back.
Howdy. Yeah, I wasn't going to take Brent up on his plan to break in and like seal myself up in drywall for a week just so I could be there when the ceremony starts. I was like, I'm going to watch from home. So good luck to Brent. Can't wait to see you on TV.
And we have not one, but two of our guest co-hosts returning for this very special episode. Joe Cetta, welcome back. Are you breaking your own record for how many times you've guested?
I think so. I think this might be 9, 10.
Whoa.
I'm getting up there. I'm getting residuals soon. This is all right. So
we have to get the staff to actually go check that number because David and I have a hard time getting to double digits. So
yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah.
We're very close.
Breaking out all the toes. It's tough. Yeah.
You're very close to having voting rights
almost
for the direction of the show.
True.
So.
I can't wait for the stock options.
You're going to want that. That's a special treat.
Yeah.
And let me introduce our other guest co-host, returning once again. It's Jarrod Burt. Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks for having me, as always, guys. Really enjoy it. Happy to be here.
Well, we're not going to be looking at a movie, one particular movie this week, because we are going to go through all of the nominees for the 96th Annual Academy Awards. We're going to go category by category and round robin it. So we're going to not ReconCinemize. We're going to, what do we call it, David? We're going to concinemize it? Concinemize. Yeah.
I think so.
Rolls off the tongue.
Smooth.
That's what we do. Well, I wanted to ask you guys a quick question, though, because it's like we're getting kind of just loosey-goosey Oscar predictions, what we want to do. But like, I'm never good at this historically, but did you get, I think this is something all three of you probably paid more attention to over the years, over the decades. And I'm just curious, like, did the expansion of the Academy with 10 Best Pictures and the membership going almost doubling, has that changed like your prediction model or the way you think it's going to go? Like, because it's like you got a more slightly more diverse membership and a larger membership than the ranked choice voting on Best Picture and all of that. Has your strategy changed? That's kind of, are you more surprised these days, less surprised? I'm just kind of curious about like Oscar season for you.
I feel personally more surprised the last few years. I feel like it's been less predictable. Like when we were growing up in the 80s, 90s, you kind of like knew what the Oscar movies were, like Braveheart, like movies like that, The English Patient, those kind of movies, like, they're going to get nominated. You pretty much know who's going to win each category. It wasn't that tough to really predict. And I think somewhere, especially I'll say in the last 10 years, it got a lot harder. And the movies themselves, what's getting nominated has really changed. That it's not a lot of blockbuster movies and not a lot of, movies that are seen by a lot of people. Like a lot of these are basically, they're not quite independent, but they're not, the major releases. And now, especially with streaming, it's kind of extra weird now. But
I remember in college when we used to do our little picks or whatever, Jonathan, I feel like it was all big movies, and it was rare that it wasn't. And we pretty much would always know going in what was going to win. It was never a surprise. We'd always say, oh, Titanic's going to win. Oh, whatever's going to win. And it was always the case, I feel like.
I would say that the nominations are the real difference. That it's really a lot harder to guess what's going to get nominated. I would say to your point a little bit, some of it is still, winners are unpredictable in some places. I mean, I still think a lot of it, there's so much more attention, I think, paid now in recent years to like the other awards shows or the critics awards and stuff as they're coming out, that it gets a little easier to like look at this year. Like I don't know that there's a lot of real horse races in the top categories, because it seems like it's so just built in now, like, well, these are all winning everything. And that does not to say that's definitely going to happen, but I do feel like back when there was only 5 nominations for Best Picture, everything was so boiled down, and Best Director splitting was always such a big deal, because it would always be like, you know, the 4 Best Picture nominees and then one random. So you can already start eliminating movies that have a chance. And, you know, it just seemed different. Where now with so many Best Picture nominees and some more random stuff getting nominated, like when Mad Max Fury Road got nominated for Best Picture, there's no way that ever would have happened when there were 5 nominees. Even though it's a great movie, it's just not the kind of movie that would get nominated. So, so I would say more the nominations than the actual trying to pick the awards.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I find myself, I've been more pleased with what's won over the years. Like, oh, that's a great choice. Like, good for that. Like, it is, because sometimes I'd have a thought of some, you know, the typical awards bait stuff always going to win, but then it doesn't win anything, or, you know, or doesn't get the top prize for something a little more, I don't know, a little more crowd pleasing in a sense, even if it is like an indie thing that gets it. So I don't know. I'm always surprised by how this always goes, but it just seems like it would have got harder, but I guess it's in different levels for everybody.
I always would get excited when something that I really liked would win, like screenplay. You're like, there's no chance in hell that that's winning, you know, Best Picture or whatever. You're like, well, at least it got screenplay, or, you know, whatever the case. But that was always enjoyable. I feel like
when Good Will Hunting won for Best Screenplay, I've never seen you jump that high for joy. You were running laps around the theater that we saw it in, because that's what
I was like, how do you like dem apples? In a really bad Boston accent, which I cannot do and I will not do.
Our boys did it. They did it.
Yeah.
Way to go, Affleck.
Just wanna high five and chest bump Damon and Affleck right now.
Whatever happened to them too? We never saw them again.
It's an old one and done.
Yep. But I will say, this year in particular, I feel like there was a shift. So, like, you know, we shifted away from the traditional Hollywood movies getting nominated. This year was the first year in I feel like a long time that was a mix of it, because obviously you had your huge blockbuster hits in Oppenheimer and Barbie getting, you know, especially Oppenheimer getting all the nominations that it got, but you still had the mix of Anatomy of a Fall, The Zone of, you know, like other real independent or even foreign seeming films that are getting attention. So it was nice to see a mix of the different levels of film releases really getting the attention this year. And I feel like overall a step up in the quality of films. Like, I really personally enjoyed the vast majority of the movies that were nominated in general this year. I mean, only a few years ago, and I don't mean to disparage the film at all, but a movie like Coda winning Best Picture, has anyone spoken about Coda at all? Has anyone said that word since they won? I mean,
I still haven't seen it.
Oh no!
Right?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's good.
I like Coda.
It is.
Yeah, it's
Go see
perfectly
Coda.
fine.
Yeah.
my family watched it without me, and so now it's like, okay, that passed, unfortunately.
Yeah, you missed
So you
it,
can't
and that
watch
was your window.
I always feel like I need to watch like at least the nominated Best Pictures before the Oscars, or I just will not see them until whenever. I still haven't seen Triangle of Sadness, and it's just sitting out there, and I'm just
Me
like,
too.
I gotta watch that movie. So
It will be there for the next 5 to 7 years before
At least.
I come around.
It took me like 25 years to see Secrets and Lies, and by the time I did, I was like, Secrets and Lies is great, and I just never saw it. I was just like, well, forgot about it. So, yeah.
All right, so let's get into it then. We're gonna start with, we're gonna go through the screenplay nominations. So let's start with original screenplay, and nominated is Celine Song for Past Lives, Sammy Birch for May December, with the story by Sammy Birch and Alex Mechanic, Bradley Cooper and Josh Singer for Maestro, David Hemmingson for The Holdovers, and Justine Triet and Arthur Harari for Anatomy of a Fall. So original screenplay, brand new script, new idea. What do you guys like in this category? Take your time. I can edit. We can, we need a minute to think about it. I'll chop it out.
Are we doing favorite or what we think will win?
We can do both, really. You can say both.
Mine's probably the same. I would say Holdovers. That was my favorite movie this year. Watchability wise, it checked all the boxes for me. I absolutely loved it.
I'll say the same. Holdovers is probably my personal. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite, but it's the one I vibed with the most. I mean, the Holdovers is it really taps. It's an homage really to 70s filmmaking, which anyone who listens to the show, right, David?
70s, I love them.
Gritty,
real, raw.
That's really my bread and butter. And this was such a beautiful homage to that style of filmmaking and that tone, that energy. So I would love to see that get it in this category too.
Well, if you want to do spiritual remakes to Dutch, which is one of my favorite holiday films, you could do worse than the Holdovers. And I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's it's just really enjoyable. Yeah. And for the script, enjoyed it. I'm at the same time, I'm going with Vegas odds on things I may not like. If there's categories I haven't seen, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to pick the Vegas odds. So, but apparently Anatomy of the Fall is a favorite by a slim margin. And I did enjoy that script quite a bit too. Although I don't know how I feel about the ending, but overall engaging. But yeah, I guess I would go Holdovers. Yeah.
I'd say, I think the Holdovers is my favorite of these movies. And I think it was as a script, I think it's my favorite of the scripts too. I was trying to think of this in a more global sense, as far as because sort of to Jarrod's point, screenplay always tended to be almost a consolation prize for a great movie, right? It was always it's great, but it's not going to win Best Director and it's not going to win Best Picture. And I feel even though the Holdovers has that exact same problem, I feel this might be the only chance for some things. Adapted screenplay is the exact same problem this year, but because of that, I kind of am thinking Anatomy of a Fall or Past Lives, because I don't see what else they're going to win. Holdovers is going to win other stuff. I don't know that either of those is going to win anything. So I'm kind of because they both kind of, I don't think Past Lives was eligible, but Anatomy of a Fall weirdly got kind of screwed out of getting nominated for foreign language. So it's not even in that. So that's why I'm kind of thinking that probably is going to win screenplay. And I didn't realize until today that Alexander Payne didn't write this movie. Because my initial instinct was, well, he's already won an Oscar. They don't need to give him an Oscar for this. And it was only then that I realized, but I wonder if enough people think of that, then they'd be like, oh, well, then maybe we shouldn't, So that's where I am with that.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I think Anatomy of a Fall is going to win it. I hope Holdovers wins, but I do think Anatomy of a Fall, for reasons you just laid out, is going to get it here. And it really was. I mean, a complicated script. You try to think about, not take away all the visual and the performance aspect of these films. And if you're just reading it, what is the most captivating? Anatomy of a Fall is beautiful in that sense as well. So I do think they're probably going to get it. I would like to see Holdovers get it. Holdovers is almost for certain going to get other wins that we've seen happening already.
I will say that four out of the 5 films in this category I really, really liked quite a bit. Maestro, I was lukewarm on, but the other ones I was just thought were really, really great, nuanced screenplays.
Yeah, I thought May December was going to get nominated for something else. I thought it wasn't a great movie, but it's a pretty good movie, and it's certainly better than Maestro. So I didn't know why. It seemed like there was a lot of early kind of chatter for it, and then I wonder if people kind of turned against it because of the plot, or that the subjects weren't real cool with the movie existing. So
I think also with May
the
December,
content seemed to bother some people in the long haul.
Yeah.
And I think for May December it was a misunderstood film as well. I don't think people got, not to say that it's a spoof, but it's almost a satire of those Lifetime kind of movies. And I think if you got that going into it, it made it much more entertaining, and most people it went right over their heads. All right, moving along, let's look at a Best Adapted Screenplay. We've got Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest, Tony McNamara for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan, you guys heard of him, for a little film called Oppenheimer, Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach for Barbie, and Cord Jefferson for American Fiction. This one to me is a tricky one. All of these tough. I think are really good.
I mean, this is sort of like what I was saying. Like, this is a category where a lot of these movies, this could be the only thing they win. And so that creates a really, because I mean, on the surface, I think you would just I would just think immediately, well, Barbie's probably going to win because, you know, it's probably not going to win Best Picture. And so then Greta Gerwig should get something. But again, like, do they need to give her this Oscar? Probably not. So then you go down from there. What else is American Fiction going to win? What else is Poor Things going to win? Like, and these are all really good movies. So this for me is tough. I don't. Weirdly, I think the only one that really isn't in the serious running is Oppenheimer, which is like the movie, right?
Yeah.
and
I agree with you, Joe. That's too funny.
Yeah, this is tough. This is a tough category.
I totally hear what you're saying. I think they're going to give it to Barbie here, because of especially Greta not getting the director nomination. They're going to want to make up for all the, I think politically speaking, I think they're probably going to make up for that mistake. And, but I want American Fiction to win. I think, as a script, again, captivating. So many of these other films, Oppenheimer and Poor Things especially, are so visual that there are other places where they're, especially Oppenheimer, more likely to win. And I think script wise, I hope American Fiction gets it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, John. American Fiction definitely is so solid, and I think you're right. It's like reading it off the page. I think you get to experience it, engage with it more than the Oppenheimer script, because you've got certainly, like, Nolan has a particular vision, and it's very much his, and you can kind of predict maybe how he would do it. But American Fiction gives you that engagement where you get to enjoy the story along with it. Where all these are enjoyable stories in a certain way, but I don't know. There's something to the biting commentary kind of, and all of that, and satire of American Fiction. I think kind of gives that a little more of that timeliness that just kind of hits a little bit better these days. So I'm hoping for American Fiction, and thinking it might be the one.
Yeah.
I could see American Fiction sneaking in and winning that as well, even though I think Barbie is maybe, like you mentioned, John, with Greta, not getting a director nomination, could very easily take that. But American Fiction was just, I don't really think it was like any of the others in the category. It had heart and comedy, and I mean, it sort of ran the gamut of emotions in that film. Whereas, Oppenheimer is like mostly depressing the whole time. So
yeah,
it's not sort of, doesn't have all that range, at times, but still a great movie, just a lot different.
Yeah, and actually, I want to throw out there another film that just before we leave the screenplay categories, that has been totally ignored, that I thought was a beautiful, really important film, was Origin, that got totally kind of knocked out of any of the awards for all the awards that have been happening, that was really ignored, and I would have definitely put it in for a screenplay nomination. So but that's not nominated, so we're going with what is. Yeah, probably looking at Barbie or American Fiction here.
I just in case we go down this road any further, I have a thing about snubs, the idea of snubs. And if we want to talk about that, that's fine. But I do feel like the only fair thing to do is then you got to say what shouldn't have been nominated. It's a finite number of nominations.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And I've thought about this a little bit, because it's so much like, oh well, she should have been nominated. I was like, well, then who shouldn't have been nominated? You gotta do it. You gotta step up. So yeah. Screenplay is tough to do that. I mean, I don't mean for that. It's kind of
right. No, there's other categories where it's much easier to see, like, this one should not have been here. This should have been somebody else.
Right.
I have that definitely, as long as I remember to say it. I have one category for sure that I would make a change. But
no.
All right. So moving along to visual effects, we have So this is a category that is interesting because it's movies that are much more blockbustery, widely seen out of all the films, or some of them at least. We've got Napoleon, we've got Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Godzilla -1, and The Creator.
I'm amazed how few of these movies I've seen.
Help me out, guys.
Amazed.
Same.
Yeah. Usually I've seen all of the visual effects movies.
Really,
I've seen
they're
two.
all fantastic as far as visual effects goes. I mean, really, I was lucky enough to see The Creator kind of as it was in post-production. I could see, I had access to seeing how that was coming together, and it's really incredible. But Godzilla -1 is, I think, another sleeper here. I think that one's going to get it. But every one of these has really well done visual effects. There's not one that's off. I dog on Marvel movies a lot right now, but and I didn't love Guardians 3 as much as everybody else, seems to have. But the effects have always been good. That's not something that ever dipped in quality. So I will say Godzilla -1 is who I think is going to take it. Although I wouldn't be shocked if The Creator did too. So
I know I want to see Godzilla -1.
I was gonna say, based on the trailer, that the visual effects look incredible.
Cool looking trailer.
Yeah.
So, and I just did a Mission Impossible rewatch of all of them, and again, really, really good. I'm totally in on that.
Wow.
I mean, I love the Mission Impossible movies, so I would
great.
That's it. I would just probably Mission Impossible 7, right? The bit with the train. Come on.
Oh,
but I have nothing on these other movies. I don't. Dave, do you know what the Vegas odds are for this? Like, what is even the favorite?
That I can't even. I couldn't find.
I didn't know if that might be too far down. Like,
yeah, I'd have to go deeper to find it.
Look at the change in the train sequence for Mission Impossible 1.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, lots changed.
Yeah.
Every time I think about Mission Impossible, I think about the Ben Stiller stunt double thing, and that's like my favorite.
Yeah, it's the best thing to ever come out of Mission Impossible 2.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's still hilarious. Ben Stiller, like face to face. I think it was for the MTV Movie Awards or something. Like he played Tom Cruise's stunt double, and they had like this face to face interview, and they were like, he was duplicating everything Tom was doing. It was really funny.
They were cutting to the clips from like Cocktail, and he was like smashing all the bottles, and it was really good stuff.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to sound, another tricky one, kind of like visual effects. We've got The Zone of Interest. We've got Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, Maestro, and The Creator again. I mean, I know the sound mixer for Oppenheimer, and I think the sound in particular was really incredible in that movie. So I kind of say that should win, but in a weird way, I don't think it's going to, because it's going to win many other awards. So I think they're going to give it to. That's tough. I mean, maybe this is where Mission Impossible picks went up. I'm going to go wild card and say Mission Impossible.
Oh wow. You got to figure Zone of Interest. I wish I saw this in the theater and all of that, because it's there's so much subtlety to the whole mix and everything. Like there's just, because what you're seeing is not what you can hear throughout the entire film is not what you're focusing on visually. Like it's all background stuff.
The opening of the movie is audio for like
yeah.
several minutes. It feels like it. I mean, that movie's horrifying and like it's really incredibly made. But my goodness, the audio in that is I mean shocking. I don't know how to describe that movie any other way. It's shocking, but the audio design in it is just phenomenal. I do think Oppenheimer, though, because it's so much bigger, and more in your face, that it will win. But again, I could see Mission Impossible as well. So
yeah, I think that movies that tend to win sound tend to be effects style movies, so you tend to get that. So I think Oppenheimer's probably going to win. But the same thing. Like I think Zone of Interest should win. Like I thought the sound design is incredible. Like that movie. And that's all it is. There's no plot. Like it's just that. So like they came up with this setting. It's like, what do we do with this setting? And then the fact that they could build so much around it when so much of it is just filmed in that house is just incredible. So
well, it's so much about like what you're hearing in the background of like you're seeing this family, but what you're hearing is horrific, and it's just background noise.
Right.
And
that's, I think, the thing
to them.
That's the thing with that movie is that like it's almost like you're not going through anything because there is no real story, but you're experiencing so much that that you don't feel cheated somehow. You don't feel like, well, there's nothing's going on in this movie. Like everything is sort of going on out around it, and that's why the setting is so crazy for that movie.
Yeah, the subtlety of the sound, it's something that just because it's a quieter movie doesn't mean the sound is actually more important there. So
right. I almost wish that this had still been back in the day when they had separate sound categories and it was just like best sound and then best sound effects editing or something. Because I feel like that probably would have been one of those circumstances where you could split that. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
so complicated now. All right, so now we've got a few categories that we may not have seen everything here. So whatever we have seen, we'll discuss. So live action short film. We have The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar by Jarrod, your favorite director, Wes Anderson, and Stephen Rails. Red, White, and Blue, Night of Fortune, Invincible, and The After. Has anybody seen any of these?
I saw Henry Sugar, which was delightful.
I think this is Wes Anderson's finally a chance to win an Oscar. He's been nominated so many times that, yeah.
As of this recording, it is the top in the Vegas odds.
We were joking the other day with a couple friends on how, like, Wes Anderson, like you were saying, Joe, he's been nominated so many times and never won, and now he's going to win for this thing that's, 30 minutes long. We were also thinking the poor other people in the category, they're like, yeah, I got nominated. Oh, shit, Wes Anderson's in this thing?
Yeah.
This is the Kobe Bryant situation, right? Like, you made a short thing. No one knows who anybody else is. We're voting for Kobe. That's what this category is.
Yeah.
So.
I had a film years ago in a film festival, and a short film, and it was like, great, you're in, Palm Springs Film Festival, and this one, and this one, and it's like, you're up against a film directed by Sean Penn and Kirsten Dunst, and like, cool, I guess.
Oh, great.
I'll stand on the stage and let them take all the questions too. Awesome. No, but probably Wes Anderson will take it. That just seems like it.
I would assume.
Animated short film. I have not had a chance to see any of these, so we'll just kind of list out the nominees. War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. Pachyderm, Our Uniform, 95 Senses, and Letter to a Pig. I'm going to go with Letter to a Pig because it sounds like a great movie.
That does sound pretty awesome.
We did go see these, so I don't want to bore anybody with this because, we did actually see these, and they're all bummers.
Well, of course,
animated short films tend to be that way. Don't tell anybody, but
I don't want to spoil it for you. But like one of them's about like kind of pedophiles, and one of them's about Nazis. They're all bummers. I think probably War is Over is going to win because it's got this Beatles connection, and it's easily the worst of these. So it's just one of those things. If I had to pick, Our Uniform is pretty good. It's like a Middle Eastern. It's the effects is really the design is really cool for it. It's girls, I believe, in Saudi Arabia and how they processing sort of the restrictions they're under. They're all good. They're just not real fun. So
the thing is with these short films is they really it's hard to see these. They don't make it easy.
No, we had to go to the theater for God's sake.
Yeah. There's
see them as a package.
Actually, the shirt I'm wearing, Vidiots, is one of the few theaters, even in LA, that runs all the short films. So you really have to get out there and find them.
Yeah. We talked about like trying to see, because it's the same thing here. Like and this was at the AMC, but like they only showed them, I think, there's 1 or 2 showings a day. Like they barely show them. And then the documentary shorts, you'd have to go to the Music Box, like a more independent theater. So they don't make it easy. It's, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why we're still keeping these at the main awards. Like, I almost feel like these could go to the technical awards show, like, and that would be fine because no one's seen these. Like, I don't know that this does that much for anybody, or then put everything at the main awards show. But
Right.
to still these still be lingering after all these years, I don't really get.
All right, so moving back to the visual side of things, production design. We have Poor Things, production designer James Price and Shauna Heath. Oppenheimer, production designer Ruth DeJong. Napoleon, production designer Arthur Max. Killers of the Flower Moon, production designer Jack Fisk. And Barbie, production designer Sarah Greenwood. I think this is another tough one. I'm actually, I don't think it's going to win, but I'm actually I feel like one of the few fans of Napoleon. I really enjoyed that film, and I'm interested to see, you know, I think there's going to be a longer cut that comes out, so we'll see what that does. But I thought it was, I thought it was visually, especially, like, really, really interesting. But I'm going to say Poor Things on this one, because it's such. It really, I mean, Barbie also created its own world, but Poor Things is just so visually intense and those sets just, it really feels like another world. Barbie's sort of a mix of both, but I'm going to go with that one.
I missed out on Poor Things and Napoleon, so I can't quite get there. But I would pick Barbie over the other three then, of the three that were remaining, I think, just because it's taking such a particular thing that's a toy style and exploding it to such a degree and it makes it's all a nice little contained world. So I'd probably, and the Vegas odds are putting Barbie and Poor Things neck and neck. So I mean, who knows? Just kick this. I mean, but who knows if they're even the top two? Maybe they're going to split the vote out, and you're going to get that Napoleon win right underneath.
I mean, Oppenheimer too is a really nice production design, so maybe they split the vote and that wins.
Absolutely, good point.
I could see any of the three winning. I think I agree with you, John. I would go Poor Things out of the one. I don't think I've seen one of them, so I would say Poor Things is pretty stellar. I mean, they're all seem pretty good out of the ones I've seen.
Yeah,
I don't think I would be like, this is a category I wouldn't be upset with whoever wins.
Yeah.
I think Killers of the Flower Moon is probably the trailing everybody here, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only way Oppenheimer wins this is if Oppenheimer really is rolling up a big night and like they're heading towards 7-8 Oscars, then maybe it just gets it because voting got lazy. But yeah, I don't know. I think Barbie might win. I think Poor Things is great. Like, I think the visuals are great, but Barbie is so obviously huge production design that maybe that would make a slight difference. But I mean, same thing. It could go either way. Like,
and I do think they're going to want to give Barbie something. So it's like we mentioned earlier, where does that land for Barbie?
Right.
Okay, original song. We have What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell for Barbie. We have A Song for My People from Killers of the Flower Moon. It Never Went Away from American Symphony. I'm Just Ken from Barbie, and The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot. What do you guys think? I think it's kind of a obvious one here.
I don't think Flamin' Hot is going to win an Oscar this year. That doesn't feel right.
I think Billy and Phineas are gonna take another Oscar here. Was that 2 years ago they won for Bond, for James Bond?
Yeah, I think so. That's the only thing where I'm like, are they really going to give Billie Eilish 2 Oscars and she's like 21? That seems, I don't know. But I mean, obvious, that does seem to be where this is headed. So
yeah, I think it's got all the attention and she's just so well liked and cool. So
yeah,
I'd be it's gonna win. But I'm Just Ken is such a fun moment in that movie. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
That is a fun
and Gosling's gonna perform it, so that'll be fun on the show.
Dream scenario right there.
There's something with wacky songs at the Oscars. The Muppets won an Oscar, and It's Hard Out There for a Pimp won an Oscar. Like, I'm Just Ken could win. Like, maybe it's this thing. It's like, should Billie Eilish really be winning this many Oscars? Billie Eilish is great, but come on. Is it time for Ken?
It's not.
It's not.
He's
It's
not enough in
No.
this
Shut
category.
it down. Shut it down.
All right, original score, we have Poor Things, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny,
Ooh.
and American Fiction. Personally, I actually loved Robbie Robertson's score for Killers of the Flower Moon, and especially with him passing away this year, it might be one of those let's give it to him kind of moments.
Mm-hmm.
They're all great. You know, the classic John Williams is he going to win on a popularity thing? Oppenheimer's a beautiful score as well. So this is tough.
Yeah, this can go any direction, I think, right here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Oppenheimer would be my favorite of them all, but I don't know. Yeah.
The sentimental Robbie Robertson logic, that speaks to me. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't believe John Williams with his 50th nomination is going to win his 7th Oscar or whatever.
I know, right?
Not for Indiana Jones 5. I don't think so.
Yes.
So.
I think too, you know, it's another way for them to give an award to Killers of the Flower Moon, which is pretty much taking just one award in particular, mostly. So, all right. Makeup and hair. We've got Society of the Snow, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, Maestro, and Golda, which I have not seen.
Oh.
A lot of good ones here too. I actually think I think Maestro is actually going to take this one. I think this will be the one that goes to Maestro, and it did. You know, it did. It was very transformative and well done for Bradley Cooper.
There was a lot
Lots
of backlash
makeup going on that.
Yeah, but this was kind of like the thing they talked about, like leading up to that movie coming out, is like, should they have really done this? So I wouldn't be surprised if they did give it to them, because there's not an obvious other movie. Except maybe the Golda Meir movie, which I don't think anybody saw. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, Society of the Snow, if you want, like, was
what is that?
It's this. Remember Alive, the movie Alive?
Yeah.
It's
is it Alive again?
Done more accurately. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a grisly makeup time.
Yeah, not a bunch of white American actors playing all those roles. They actually got appropriate people to.
Oh.
It's really intense, a really great film, but it's a tough watch. But makeup, was a big part of it as they kind of deteriorate up there. So
it's on Netflix. Netflix.
Yeah,
right.
It's a Netflix. Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Society of the Snow. Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Poor Things and Oppenheimer also good. Good makeup and hair, creating those characters. So
yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see where it lands.
Usually being showy with makeup is the way, so maybe that's all Maestro needs.
And then it gets one. They like to dole it out a little bit. The Academy.
Yeah.
Okay. International feature film, formerly known as foreign film. The Zone of Interest, The Teacher's Lounge, Society of the Snow, Perfect Days, and Io Capitano. I'm going to go Zone of Interest here. I think that is the one.
This is the only one
like
I'm 100% sure about.
Yeah. They got to give it something.
Yeah.
It's too good not to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
this
into
is almost hands down, right?
And again, I don't know what the rules were exactly, why Anatomy of a Fall isn't in this category. I know there was some little ticky-tack thing, but I don't know what it was. I can't remember. I thought I read something about it, like the country didn't submit it or something weird, and like clearly that should be in here. And especially now that it's not just foreign language, when Anatomy of a Fall is half in English, so
right.
But without that, then it's clearly Zone of Interest. So, yeah.
I don't
even remember, because I know I read about this because I was outraged when I saw the movie, and I was like, what the hell happened here? And now I just don't remember the exact details, but it literally was something like they didn't submit it. And that's why that's the only reason it's not there.
There are all sorts of rules and requirements that if you miss something, they'll disqualify you. But had that been nominated, Anatomy of a Fall definitely would have won that here.
It'd be more of a horse race, to be sure. So
yeah. All right. So this next category, we're going to kick it over to Jarrod, being this is all his field here. Film
He's the
editing.
expert.
Oh
We
my
have
gosh.
Poor Things. We have Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Holdovers, and Anatomy of a Fall. What do you think?
I'm gonna say Oppenheimer for two reasons. There is so much going on in that movie to be able to cut time, repetition, and Jen Lame is awesome. She used to work with me back in the day, and she was just great people. She's probably like, I'm not gonna remember that time at Bina Murray with a bunch of annoying dudes as AEs, but she was awesome, and she's a great editor. So I hope she wins.
Yeah, especially with the kind of cutting all over kind of time in that film. And to keep the story going, so it's really in a non-linear way but you're still keeping up with it as an audience. That's very hard to do. And I agree. I think that should probably win it here.
Yeah, I felt taken care of as a viewer. Like I didn't have to. It wasn't like a couple establishing things and then all right, good luck. Figure it. You can figure it out. I think the script and the edit keep you in the action of whatever you're looking at, and it's easy to track. Or it's more accessible to track than I think some other non-linear stories might present. So yeah, I think that's a great choice.
Yeah, I would agree with everything on Oppenheimer. The only I think it's going to win. I think the only thing maybe Anatomy of a Fall, because Anatomy of a Fall is so complicated with the language and everything else that the editing was so important for that movie to make any sense at all. I don't think that's going to be enough to get it there. And then again, I know we're not trying to run down stuff. I'm not trying to be a negative person. So I'm just going to compare this back. Do you remember The Irishman got nominated for like best stunts at some awards and people were like, what? That's how I feel about the editing in Killers of a Flower Moon. Come on. How that got nominated for anything, they don't like us. They're being mean to us as an audience. So
I'm not a big fan of that film. I'll keep it polite and say that.
There's a great 2-hour and 25-minute movie in there somewhere.
The fact that they're allowing, they being the studios, movies that are 3.5 hours long to be made is, I think, irresponsible to audiences. That's not a movie. Make it a series, make it an episodic thing.
Yeah.
That movies. I'm on a big kick this year of the short running time. So, hour and 40 minutes used to be a great running time for a movie. 2 hours is great too. Yeah. 3.5 hours is not okay.
Not for everything.
Yeah.
Hasn't anyone seen Fargo? It's perfection. It's 96 minutes or whatever.
Wonderful.
Oh my God, Fargo's 96 minutes.
I think so.
I will say Anatomy of a Fall, half of that movie, right? Around half being a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Tough to do and keep you with it and keep you like emotionally engaged, and not to spoil the film, but like not knowing the real truth, and you staying like knowing that you don't know the real truth, and knowing that you don't know if you're actually gonna get that answered by the end of the movie. That's hard to keep you emotionally engaged, and that's all editing that's keeping you there. Or not all, but a lot of it is the editing. And the holdovers too, just to throw back to that, like well done in creating a tone that is has been long gone.
Well, all the timing of the jokes and granted some of it's acting as well, because they're long takes, but also knowing when to use those long takes and when to cut in for punch in for a cutaway or whatever. There's lots of good stuff in this category. I just think like there is so much going on in Oppenheimer. My brain sometimes can't compute like how that's done, and I do edit for a living, and I'm like, how the hell did Nolan and Jen do that? Everything tying together. It's just really well done. They're all well done.
Jarrod, I think some of our short films in college still would blow Oppenheimer out of the water, though. So you just instinctually had it back then.
I mean, Jeremiah's work on Terror of Harkinville comes to mind.
Yep. Okay, documentary short. We've got Nai and Waipo, Hopefully I pronounced that somewhere near how it should be. The Last Repair Shop, Island in Between, The Barber of Little Rock, and the ABCs of book banning. Yeah, none of us have seen any of these, so there you go. We'll find out on the show who wins.
Congratulations to all the winners.
Yes. Documentary feature, 20 Days in Mariupol, To Kill a Tiger, Four Daughters, The Eternal Memory, and Bobi Wine, The People's President.
I missed all these, by the way.
Yep.
None.
Sorry, documentary.
I'm sorry,
feature
documentaries.
Filmmakers.
It's an honor to be nominated, and
apologize.
congrats to the winners.
Yeah. I promise I'll try to check out at least the winner. I'm sorry.
Costume design. This will be a tough one too. Holly Waddington for Poor Things, Ellen Mirajnik for Oppenheimer, Janty Yates and Dave Crossman for Napoleon, Jacqueline West for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Jacqueline Duran for Barbie. What do you guys think?
If I had to pick one, I'd say Poor Things.
I don't think I'll disagree with that. I do think Napoleon, again, has some good stuff, but this might be one of those where Poor Things takes it.
Based on the trailers, I think Poor Things probably has a leg up.
Yeah,
I
but Barbie too. Barbie's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Napoleon, even though it's the only one of these movies I haven't seen. But I feel like historically, period movies tend to surprise in this category, and Napoleon's not gonna win much. So
yeah, and Napoleon is. It was not well loved by audiences, so it's just the fact that it got nominations at all. But the period pieces are like for this category are sort of much more predictable that they're going to get attention.
You got to have at least one or two in the big show, right? Even if they're no good.
Oh yeah. All right, cinematography. We have Robbie Ryan for Poor Things, Hoyt van Hoytema for Oppenheimer, Matthew Libatique for Maestro, Rodrigo Prieto for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Edward Lockman for El Conde.
right off the top, has anybody seen El Conde? Because I read the plot, and it
No.
sounds incredible. Like,
I haven't seen
I
it.
watched the trailer and it does look very interesting for sure. I have
Yeah.
not seen the film though.
I haven't even heard of it.
I never heard of it until I saw these nominations. I was like, what is that movie? And I think that's on Netflix too, but so I really want to check that
It
out.
is, yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh, I'm gonna say, oh boy, I don't know. Every time I want to say something, to me, it's Oppenheimer or Poor Things.
Yeah.
It's tough to pick between those two.
Yeah, those two are visually stunning. I will
I'm
say
gonna
that
I'm just gonna say Poor Things because I just think there's so much to that film, visually, that Oppenheimer has some more global things going for it, that Poor Things has, some more specific categories.
yeah, I even thought that my favorite part of Maestro was the cinematography, jumping between formats and color and non-color and square versus widescreen. I thought that all that stuff was the best part about that movie. But it's not going to beat the other two.
My problem with Maestro was just the way the overall tone of that film just felt very pretentious, that so much of the focus was on his performance and her performance, that other things were good but not as stressed as it may have been by other filmmakers.
Are you saying it's awards bait?
Trying to be, yeah.
Bradley Cooper wants to win an Oscar in the worst way.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did Star Wars Born do back then?
It got nominated for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, did it win anything?
Yeah. It won Best Song, but I don't think it won much else.
Yeah,
right?
I don't. Yeah, I think it. I can't remember what did win that year, but
I can't remember what year it was, but
it was.
Bradley Cooper's been
19, I think,
nominated 5 or 6 times. He's been nominated a bunch of times. A couple times for acting, and then maybe for directing Star is Born. Couple.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
was.
I think he was up for directing in it. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
And that was a much better movie than Maestro.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna give cinematography to Oppenheimer. I'm going with the easy bet.
Hard
Come
to
on,
argue
baby.
with it too, you know.
Yeah.
Hard to argue against it.
I'm thinking Oppenheimer too. I think this is now getting into the Oppenheimer's going to put the big run together, and this would fit in there nicely. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, animated feature. Now, the one I want is actually not nominated.
Ninja Turtles.
But yes, Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles not nominated.
Ninja Turtles was
That
amazing.
is ridiculous.
I didn't see it. It's good.
It's very
You should.
It's
on.
awesome. Yeah,
Is it good?
It's on Amazon
awesome,
now.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is the most entertaining of all the Ninja Turtles movies. It captures, you know, what was kind of fun about the cartoon that was on when we were growing up, the comic books, like all of it, the voices, the voice acting, the cast, great. Just visually, I thought the animation style was beautiful.
The score is really awesome too, I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
Yeah, it's a really cool movie. I love Spider-Verse as well, but Ninja Turtles because it was the newer one of the two this year, and we already loved first Spider-Verse. That you know, it was pretty awesome. I've seen it like a gazillion times now because my kids watch it like, you know, always. But I still love it.
Let me just run down them. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Robot Dreams, Nimona, Elemental, and The Boy and the Heron. I mean, I think Robot Dreams and Nimona are beautiful as well. I think Elemental, you know, is the sort of token Disney nomination. Spider-Verse, I thought was beautiful and great, but I don't love it as much as everybody else does. I think it didn't, like what it did in the first film was incredible. And I think they didn't take enough steps. To me, it felt like it was just sort of repeating everything they did in the first movie. That like they didn't take that next step forward on a story level. And it was so much going on that like having a hard time kind of keeping up or caring about it, that it was just too much, you know? I think The Boy and the Heron's probably going to take it. It's Miyazaki, and you know, I think that'll make everybody. It's a feel good to give it to him.
Is he retired after that? Was that his last movie? Or
I don't know. I think so, but
that seems to
like
get
I read
floated
that.
around
Maybe
a
I'm
lot.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be.
it's like Tarantino.
Right.
One more movie.
Yeah.
I gotta
That's
agree
the league
though.
when I see it.
I think Miyazaki winning makes the most sense. I haven't seen most of these. I saw Elemental and I didn't love it. And then the same thing. Like I thought Spider-Man's great, but are they really going to give Spider-Man this award again 2 years later for almost the same movie? Seems a little much.
We just got to petition Ninja Turtles, Jonathan.
Exactly. I
Get it
think
in there.
we do a write-in campaign this week.
We've got tons of time to do it.
Okay. All right. We're getting to the acting categories now.
Acting.
Actress in a supporting role. Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers, Jodie Foster for Naiad, America Ferrera for Barbie, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, and Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer. Thoughts? Is there an obvious one here?
Before I saw it, I know everyone was talking about Divine Joy Randolph a lot. And then I saw the movie, and she was very good. And I could see that being the winner. I could see her being in the winner overall too. I kind of get the buzz for it. But I mean, everyone's so good in this category.
Yep.
I just like it always stinks that you pick 5 of all the roles, and then you got to pick one overall. But obviously that's what we do here. But so just because I really do like The Holdovers, I'm going to stick with the Divine.
So much of that movie is on the performances, and she is just, you know, really, really good. And she's been winning, you know, that award pretty much across the board. So, some of these actor ones,
oh, that's right,
pretty consistent. So
I
Jodie
feel like
Foster,
that one's a lock.
Yeah,
but they're all great. But I just feel like that one's a lock for sure.
Yeah, I think Jodie Foster was the best part of Naiad. I think she was really great, and she's on this kind of career renaissance right now of like these really movies may not necessarily be great, but or the shows. I just started True Detective, so I'll wait till the end. But her performance is I mean better than ever. But America Ferrera too. I mean that speech, like, she's really good in Barbie. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went against the grain and maybe gave it to her too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Davine Joy Randolph's gonna win.
Devine. Pardon my
Devine,
mispronunciation.
Divine. I might have it wrong.
I haven't heard it out loud. I apologize if I got it wrong, everybody.
I don't. And I mean, but again, like I think this category is odd because you do have The Color Purple nominated with its only real nomination. Nyad only got this in Best Actress, I think. So this is a weird category for me, sort of. I think. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I really did like Jodie Foster in Nyad, and I think that movie is so rah-rah, you know, and it's such a great kind of story. I don't think she has a chance of winning, but I think that she's almost a lead performance in a supporting category, so somehow that like just changes the way I think about it a little bit. Yeah. Like I don't want to run anybody down. I come back to my snubs thing and I'm just like, you know what? Let's just let it go.
Yeah. No, we're definitely not trying to do that for the most part. But
yeah.
All right. Coming to actress in a leading role. I have a comment in this category, but it's Emma Stone for Poor Things, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Annette Bening for Nyad. Now, I think Margot Robbie being, left out of this category is criminal that she is not here. And I will say my personal opinion, Joe, you may feel differently, but I feel like Annette Bening is the one that I would boot out of here. I like Annette Bening, but she often rides a line of too much. And I feel like the kids are all right. I think she was beautiful in that film and most of the time. But I feel like in Nyad, she crossed over and it was just like, okay, I feel you acting. I feel you like reaching for those awards, and I'm not buying it. So yeah. Jodie was great and I was in. It was like weird in these scenes during Nyad that I'm like half in and half out.
Yeah. No, I think my problem with Nyad, I don't really have a problem with it. I think it's a fine movie. I think to your point, Annette Bening shouldn't really be getting nominated for that because I feel like there is this Academy inclination to award suffering as an acting skill. And I don't get that. I think that it is sort of, but like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant. Does anyone think that's one of his 10 best performances? It's just suffering. That's the whole movie. And Annette Bening in Nyad is all suffering. Like, right. There's almost nothing else going on in that movie. So I just don't get that. And I don't really understand. But I mean, I have a real problem with this category because I feel like there's a bunch of people who could have been in here. Greta Lee not being in here for Past Lives is insane. Yep. And because I have a Maestro problem, I was like, Carey Mulligan probably doesn't really need to be here. I think Sandra Hüller's only really nominated because she's in this and Zone of Interest. She's good in both of them, but I feel like it's almost like she's in both of them. So like, this is a great year for her. And so I think that, even though I'm not as like gung-ho, like Margot Robbie has to be in this category, I certainly think she should be in the category.
I felt like the cast of May December too.
Oh, yeah, Natalie Portman is great in May December. Yeah.
You know what? This is the one year it should just be 10 people in this category.
They should have. The Golden Globes would have put 20 people in this category. They don't care.
As long as they come to the show.
Yeah.
I actually think they're going to give it to Lily Gladstone.
She's good in that movie.
And she's good.
She's good.
Yeah. And she's a new face really especially to this level of films and it's great and we all celebrate that and I think Emma Stone is also fantastic and the huge part of why that movie is what it is. But Sandra Hüller also was just, especially in Anatomy of a Fall, I thought that performance was amazing. Like to ride that line in the middle of like, did she do it or did she not do it? Like there is no indication for sure either way, and that's really hard. Plus the courtroom drama to keep it interesting.
Is she an awful human being, or is she a normal human being, or is she an okay human being? You do not know.
You really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And then
It's
Zone of
crazy.
Interest, which she's not nominated for, but again, a very different
Great.
kind of performance that
Yeah.
was also just incredible. But I do think they're going to give it to Lily. I would say probably
Could be.
like Emma Stone should be the number 2 here. That's my opinion. And then Sandra, but it's real tight.
Yeah, I love Lily Gladstone, but I just think like Emma Stone had more to do. She's almost. She's probably not in every frame of the movie, but she's in every moment of that movie. And the Killers of the Flower Moon, I feel like is even more ensemble than what Poor Things is. Poor Things is Emma freaking Stone the whole time.
Yes, yeah. There's so many other things going on in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah. I mean, this is also comes back kind of to my suffering thing a little bit. Lily Gladstone, that's a lot of suffering in that movie. Like she's in that bed for what feels like forever. So, there's only so much.
The movie is 17 hours long, so
right. So it had to be for all of season 2 of this movie.
Her screen time is
bed.
actually pretty high now that you think about it.
So I actually think Emma Stone's going to win. I think this is the one of the major categories that I'm a little bit. I know everybody's like Lily Gladstone's going to win. I don't know. Like I feel like, and maybe this is just me, I feel like Killers of the Flower Moon has a deserved backlash after all this time, and I don't think it's going to win anything. And that's sort of where I am with it. I wouldn't be surprised. Like it clearly seems like that's the big push, and she's probably the best thing in that movie. But I just think that Emma Stone, if she hadn't already won, she would definitely be winning. So then it's kind of like, is it fair or not?
And again, not nominated, but Margot is like the perfect Barbie and just nailed everything that character should have been. So she should have been in that category. But anyway, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from selecting anybody here because I feel like I need to have seen Poor Things because obviously it sounds like Emma Stone's a great front runner here, but I enjoyed everyone else in these other movies very much. So good luck to all the winners out there.
All right, so moving on to actor in a supporting role. We've only got a few left, guys. We're almost done. We got Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things, Ryan Gosling in Barbie. So Ken gets nominated, but not Barbie. Okay. Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer.
Makes sense.
Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction. What do we think here?
Patriarchy staying strong. Way to go, fellas.
Yeah.
I liked all these performances, all of them.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
It's pretty obvious, though. It seems like, Robert Downey Jr. has been winning.
Yeah.
The acting categories has been pretty straightforward. In all the awards, it's pretty much the same people. So I think he's the one to beat. Again, like, great performance. Really good to see him playing such a different role and reminding people that he's a lot more than Iron Man.
Yep. Yeah, he was great. But, I'll say Sterling K. Brown he steals every scene, which is incredible. Of course, Ryan Gosling is so funny. And the Ken battle and the song number is just like incredible. But
so
what were you gonna say, John?
Ruffalo's hilarious.
Ruffalo. Yeah.
The dance scene, David, when you see Poor Things, the dance scene between Ruffalo and Emma Stone is definitely one of my favorite scenes of this past year.
Oh wow!
You got your two Marvel actors playing against type, or just going back to what they been known to do in the past. And Ruffalo is such a baby in the whole movie, and it's so hilarious.
I'll say De Niro too. I do think this is his best performance in years.
Oh, like 30 years.
Yeah,
that guy's been phoning it in forever.
Since
this and Bad Grandpa,
Oh god.
I wasn't looking forward to seeing Killers of the Flower Moon because I'm just like, I got to put up with De Niro, and yeah, I was absolutely like, every scene he's in, he does, he's defied all my expectations every time.
He just had to get back together with Marty. Like that was it. Like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he did The Irishman, and
well,
yeah.
But did he? There
Wasn't really him.
A lot of lousy
digital in
computer
that
effects.
movie.
Yeah, he's barely there. So
Very
Yeah.
digital.
yeah,
This is a category just all like I'm not going to be upset with whoever wins. It'll probably be Downey, but they all deserve it and all were great.
yeah. No,
Has
I thought.
Jesse Plemons ever been nominated? Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. Jesse
I don't
Plemons,
think
has
so.
he
I
ever-
don't think so. He's been in
God,
tons of Oscar movies too.
I love that guy. He is
Yeah.
incredible.
I think he's
He'll
just
have it.
like always like the fifth or sixth guy, right? So it's always
Yeah.
like like the master. He's great, and he just gives you like 10 great minutes, and then he's out, and that's it. Like
Well, he doesn't come
Nice.
into Flower Moon until hour 7. So
way into it. Yeah.
He was
That is
nominated
true.
2 years ago for The Power of the Dog. He was in
oh yeah, right.
Oh.
Yeah.
as
I
a
was
supporting
not-
I
role.
love that actor.
Another movie never spoken of again.
I have largely blocked out Power of the Dog. That was not my favorite.
I do love Plemons though.
Oh, he's great. The only thing in this category I felt like, and again snubs, but I thought Charlie Melton was so good in May December. The fact that he didn't get in here, especially like
He
with
sure was.
like Gosling's great, but it's such a silly performance by comparison that I was like, I think he could have been in there maybe, or because really it looked like from all the early stuff that Sterling K. Brown actually took what would be that spot. But Sterling K. Brown is so great in that movie, that,
Right.
you can't really have much of a qualm about it. But
I think an argument can be made that like I think you can't nominate Gosling and not Margot Robbie. You either nominate both of them or you don't nominate either, and at least it's fair.
yeah, I'd say that's fair. I mean, it's just like I came out of Barbie thinking, yeah, Ken's hilarious, but like, did you come out thinking like, yeah, Gosling should win an Oscar for that? Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
so.
no.
Yeah. But no, I think Downey's going
I
to win.
love
I can't even
Gosling,
really
too.
imagine who else would win. Like, this category is such a huge gulf that I think anything else would be kind of amazing. So,
Yeah. All right, actor in a leading role. Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. Is it Cillian or Killian? I keep forgetting.
I think it's Killian, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I think it's okay. Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, and Bradley Cooper for Maestro. Now, this one is really tough. I think you're down to at least 3 here,
Yeah.
right? It's down to Cillian, Giamatti, Jeffrey Wright.
Thanks for playing Bradley Cooper.
Thanks for coming. Get out. You got your makeup.
See you later,
award.
buddy.
Yeah. And it's really
He
too
did
bad
a-
because Coleman Domingo's great in Rustin.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I miss
it's
Rustin.
Giamatti and Killian have been winning everything.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey
it's
Wright,
funny-
is so good too.
Because like in any other year, you could see any of these guys being the like sure thing front runner. Like when I saw American Fiction, I think that was before I had seen The Holdovers. So I was like, oh, I think Jeffrey Wright could win this. Like finally, I don't think he's ever been nominated for an Oscar before, and he's great in everything, And then The Holdovers came out. I was like, well, Paul Giamatti is way overdue. So yeah.
I think I'm gonna go a little bit of I think the obvious thing is Killian. And I think they're gonna throw a little not ringer, but I think they're gonna give it to Giamatti because I think the rest of what we're gonna talk about is probably gonna go Oppenheimer's way. So
Yeah,
So
I-
Giamatti's gonna win for Sideways and Holdovers.
Long overdue.
yeah,
Long
that's what they should do.
overdue.
They open the envelope like, oh, Paul Giamatti, not for Holdovers.
Let me ask you guys actually a question since you're following the trends, and is Bradley Cooper and Maestro, is that just getting completely passed over in every other award thing right now?
It wasn't
Yeah.
really even nominated in a lot of other places. Like,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's widely regarded as being a pretty average movie. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It's I mean,
Even though
like
he's
I was
acting
saying-
his ass off in that movie, I didn't buy it. Like, I didn't buy any of it. Like,
Oh, sure.
it feels very
It feels-
forced.
Yeah.
It feels very theatrical.
Yeah.
It's just a hair over the top. I mean,
Exactly.
Well, you
That's
know,
exactly
honestly,
what it feels
Talks
like.
like that.
would have been a great play. Would have been
Yeah,
a great play.
he feels like he's in a Broadway musical without music. Like it's just insane, that movie. Like I don't get that. Yeah.
And it feels like we were talking about with Annette Bening with Bradley Cooper. It's just like
Yeah.
you're really lunging for that Oscar, and it's obvious, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so we're thinking what, one of those three, right? Giamatti, Killian, Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright being the wild card.
I'd be really happy with Jeffrey Wright, but I don't think he'll get it. But I'd be happy without any of those three. Like,
Yeah.
I think
I
Killian
like
Murphy's
any of
gonna
those three.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of it in like the overall sense, right?
Yeah.
And for me, this comes down to like the couple things, like, you know, The Holdovers is already going to win Best Supporting Actress, probably. It's got a pretty good chance at screenplay. You know, is it also going to then win Best Actor? That feels like a lot of big awards for that movie that has almost no chance of winning Best Picture. It seems like a lot. But inside of that, it's also like everything's been so predictable at the award shows for the most part. This is kind of the one that's gone back and forth. So by my crazy way of thinking, if Emma Stone somehow beats Lily Gladstone, then Cillian Murphy has to win because at least it's predictable. Where I don't think you get that many surprises in the big categories. But this is my own internal logic. So I would probably lean with Paul Giamatti too, but that feels a little bit of a risk. So
yeah, my heart's in that movie, you know. So I
love that movie.
Yeah. All right, two left. Director Jonathan Glazer for Zone of Interest, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall. Now, I will say, of course, being in this industry and a huge fan of so many Scorsese films, the Scorsese since The Departed, those films are not of the quality and the iconic nature that so many of his previous films were. And I think it's not cool that just because he's Martin Scorsese, we're nominating him every year. You know, it's like Spielberg too, that whether people say it out loud or not, like there is a dip in quality at a certain point, which is natural when you've had a run as long as they have and made some of the best films of all time. Like you can't operate at that level forever. But and again, the 3.5 hours is irresponsible. It's not right.
People getting blood clots.
Has anyone seen Fargo?
Especially without
It's gonna keep bringing up Fargo.
Duck Soup is 68 minutes long. 68.
At least put an intermission in there, like the old days.
Come on. Yeah.
Well, before Marty, who would be the director to kind of do the same thing, like sort of taking up the space in the room? Is it like, did Woody Allen have that? Like, did he get nominated a lot more than he should?
Not for Best Director. He was a real screenplay guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
definitely acting for Woody Allen.
Yeah, I do feel like you're right though. Like it's almost like we've gotten to this point in his career where like it's just, and like it's not just we're going to nominate him for awards. Like look at the numbers on The Irishman. Like it's at like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like it's like people just don't know how to criticize that guy anymore. Yeah. And I think that as much as he particularly criticizes streaming and movies not in theaters, streaming hasn't ruined anyone's reputation the way it's ruined Martin Scorsese's career by his actual output. Like the movies he's making, there's just no restraint. There's nothing. Yeah. Like it's just
nobody
madness.
says no. You know, just like letting him run wild.
I always compare Martin Scorsese to the later Harry Potter books, which is a weird comparison. I'll agree, but the first couple are short, tight books, and then they're insanely, endlessly long because no one would step in and tell her this is too much. Like,
look at them on the shelf. Look at the length.
It's insane. Like, you know, all of a sudden these books have to be 700 pages long. No, they do not.
Yeah, I do think Flower Moon, if that had been trimmed down even 30 minutes, what kind of a movie you'd have.
There's a tighter movie in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in that movie. Like I don't want to just blanket, like just denigrate that movie. There's a lot of good stuff in that movie, but there's an hour of baggage easily. So.
Yeah, Yeah. And just I think to this group and I think a lot of other people I speak to about it, it's obvious. It's obvious that there was a much shorter version of that movie that was probably a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway.
So you don't think Marty's winning?
Probably not the top guy.
So Nolan's taking this one. I don't see anybody.
100%.
Yeah.
He's finally gonna get it.
Yeah.
And he deserves it, honestly.
It's time. Yeah. He finally found like the topic that could do it, right? That it's not a sci-fi movie. It's just, but it is kind of, but like it's not a pure sci-fi movie. It's like it doesn't have the crazy structure that Dunkirk had that I think turned some people off.
Yeah.
I'm a big Yorgos Lanthimos fan. Like I love all of that guy's movies. So I think someday he's going to get in there, but I don't think this is the year.
Yeah. He's just, he's in there with some other heavyweights, Nolan and Scorsese, that like, it's tough to fight against those. But
well, it's also, Barbie and which is another reason I find it bizarre that she wasn't nominated, but that and Oppenheimer made so much money on top of being critically acclaimed that it's hard to compete with a double whammy like that.
Yeah. It's always hard for me to talk about directing and picture as separate things because they are so close. So we're kind of almost doing both categories here, but Barbie not getting it here is again another criminal. It's criminal.
When Marty's in there.
Yeah, but Marty's in there. But I think that clearly like a film like Barbie, which was pulling Oppenheimer with it, right?
Oh.
That was way ahead of money and tapping into a movement, really. Tapping into like emotionally tapping into so many people that it was a movie that actually had something to say in a global way to many people, to not nominate the person who was driving that the entire time. I mean, both of them. It was really Margot. I mean, there was a group effort with a lot of people involved, but led by Greta and Margot. That was their project, and you're not recognizing them for the main thing that they did.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think you boot Marty and you bring in Greta. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I would be with you on that. That'd make it a real competitive, or just a more interesting conversation.
Yeah.
For this category.
But just I think, don't take Glazer out of there.
Yeah. Oh
no, keep Glazer.
Yeah, and Justine Triet. I mean, Anatomy of a Fall is like an incredibly directed movie. Like
yes.
Yeah.
I really, really like that movie.
Yeah.
Other years where if you're coming in a non-Nolan, Scorsese year, it would be really interesting what movie would take it.
Yeah.
As a guy who infamously doesn't like movies, I'm never like Best Pictures. I'm always bored by at least one or two nominations every year. I'm like, I would never see that. And if I see it, I'm like, or if I see them, I'm always like, eh. But like, honestly, like all the 10, the 9, I didn't see Poor Things, but I was engaged with each one throughout and for different reasons. And I feel like it's a really, because we're going to head into the Best Picture conversation here.
Yeah. I was just like, going to run through them.
I didn't mean to, but I just want to like preface the whole thing of like, this was this grouping. I just had such a good time with everything I've seen. And I, so just, I just wanted to bring that up front. I don't think that's not some new take, but for me to enjoy everything the way I did, I was just happy for me, like to have had that and not feel like, I don't know. I feel like some of these things are a slog at the end, especially with 10 now. But I don't know. So this is gonna be a fun treat. I liked all 10.
Yeah, it didn't feel like there was a lot of homework in here. Like there was a lot in real time. This year didn't feel like a great year for movies. And then at the end of the year, all of a sudden there were a bunch of really good movies.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this like I was saying in the beginning of the show, that this was I feel like a real good step, a better step than we've had in quite some time. That overall, really, for the most part, we may have criticized, a number of these movies, but that's when we're comparing them against each other. But overall, I think it was a really good year for film. because you had a mix. You had the movies, you know, you do have to remember that like the movies, the blockbuster movies, they're speaking to an audience. There is a large group of people that is liking those movies, that is going to see it, whether, you know, so you have to factor, I think you do have to factor those in, that, you know, it can't just be the, you know, the more artistic films or the, you know, like it can't just be those. You have to,
You have a balance.
you should
need a
leave
balance.
it open. Yeah. But all right, so real quick, Best Picture, we've got Zone of Interest, Poor Things, Past Lives, Oppenheimer, Maestro, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Holdovers, Barbie, Anatomy of a Fall, and American Fiction.
Woo.
That's a great group.
It's really not bad. Yeah.
I was not mad watching any of these, like David and everybody been saying. You generally every year I'm like angrily watching a couple of them when I'm like halfway through and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
But I did not feel that way this year.
Well, Best Picture should be, you know, let's just say 5-10 years down the road, do you still think of these films? That's how I think you should go into it, with who should be nominated. Is what are the movies that had such an impact, whether it's entertainment wise or a perform, you know, whatever. And I think a bunch of these have that like, yeah, these are movies that are now in that level for me that I'm going to think about.
Yeah, I think, you know, as much as you can make a very valid argument that film awards or awards of any sort are meaningless, and it is very much this kind of self-indulgent thing, there is something to this is how stuff gets passed down. Like this is important in a way, because when you go down and there's so many movies that are made, how do you know what was good or you should be watching? Like last week, I know I threw this into an email somewhere, but last week I watched Cavalcade, which won Best Picture in 1933, and there's no way I would have watched it otherwise. And it's not good, but it was still the idea that like this was, you know, that's why people still know about it. That's why it's still out there. So, you know, I think there is something to that idea. Like you can do something in the moment that seems kind of like, you know, wild and, you know, whatever, like Crash beating Brokeback Mountain at the time, I guess felt like, well, what a great upset. But like Brokeback Mountain is still an important movie.
Oh yeah,
Crash was fine. Like there's nothing about that
and now there's actually a swing even against Brokeback Mountain, that, you know, you have,
well, for the time and
two straights doing it, or
two straights, a straight director, you know, like, you know, but still at least the attempt is there, and the awakening of that.
For 2005, that was the most progressive thing anyone had ever seen. So yeah. No.
If only they had nominated Rolling Thunder back in the day, more people would have seen it and enjoyed it.
Rolling Thunder.
There you go.
Well, yeah,
I covered that one. Check it out in the archives at ReconCinemation.com.
Sure did. Actually, Joe, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of the fact of like doing this, and whether it's award ceremonies or lists or whatever. Everyone's, and you know, we live in an age where everyone can create their own signposts for what's great and what should be seen. But if most of history was erased, but you still had some major historical documents, at least you could try to find the films that are on like the best picture lists or the AFI 100 or whatever. And so it's a good place to start, but that doesn't mean you're limited by these things. It shouldn't. They're not the definition, but they're just good examples, right? Of the categories we're looking at. So, that's you got me again, Joe. Thanks a lot. I'm gonna be thinking about that for a while.
Something to chew on.
So what do we think? I mean, the obvious is Oppenheimer, right? It's been winning everything.
Give it to him.
Yep.
That would probably win.
It's hard to argue against that. I mean, there's a lot of other ones you could argue for, but like I would argue Barbie. For me personally, I'd argue Holdovers, American Fiction.
I loved Past Lives, dude. I don't think we talked about that enough. I thought that
Past
was
Lives
excellent.
is really good. Yeah,
it just didn't get the exposure I think that these other movies did, and I think that's what worked against it.
It's smaller for sure, and
yeah. I think there's something to the degree of difficulty with making something like as much as you want to run down, I think historically people run down Titanic for just being kind of a silly, blockbuster movie. The degree of difficulty on that movie is so high. The fact I think it should have won Best Picture, and even I love 1997 has wall to wall great movies, masterpieces across the board.
Ooh,
And so
you're absolutely
it's
right.
one of the greatest years. Like, it's incredible.
One could almost do a whole episode on the entire year.
Have you done a 1997 episode?
That's our lost episode.
Oh, I mean, it's due, but
We're
so
at about hour 4, and we're like halfway through the year.
we just come. How much can we talk about LA Confidential? So,
Uli's Gold.
Would you
was a
do?
big
Don't you do
exception.
LA Confidential on a separate podcast too?
We did, yeah.
We did that. Yeah.
so for that reason, like, I think Oppenheimer winning makes sense, and I think it's going to win. A little piece of me somehow still thinks Barbie is going to win, and I think it's just because it's the Argo thing. Like, it's the backlash. I think that when the nominations came out, the fact that was the thing that people kept talking about. Again, Christopher Nolan should win Best Director and will, no matter what else happens. And Oppenheimer probably should win Best Picture. I think it probably is the best of these movies, considering the degree of difficulty. But considering what happened with Argo, where Affleck doesn't get nominated, and then all of a sudden that becomes the story. So much of this has been that like, a little piece of me is like, is Barbie actually going to win Best Picture? And like, a little piece of me thinks it might. Like, I don't know.
I hear that, and I feel that too. That I think that it's got to win something, and something big. So what is it going to be? We know it's not going to be director. It's not going to be actress.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
that's why I thought it was going to go to Gosling, and they'll pull a best song, right? So, because there are some consolation prizes for Barbie.
But to give a movie that was what I mean, wasn't it the number one? It's the number one,
number one
box office of the year. To just give it some consolation prizes, and that is not to demean what those awards are, but like, it deserves more than that.
Maybe.
Well, that's why there's many award ceremonies of all stripes honoring the
The
best
Golden
of
Globes-
Hollywood.
The Golden Globes created some nonsense category to give them a best pick. Was it best blockbuster or whatever the hell the Golden Globes are doing now?
Yeah.
Like,
Is that what the new one is?
yeah, some
Yeah.
nonsense
Yeah.
award they gave. But I mean, in recent years, there's been some upsets, so it's not like we're due for a big upset. Coda wasn't a favorite by any stretch. Green Book, like, these weren't things that were really expected. So I don't know that quite tracks.
Didn't La La Land lose when it was kind of like the
La La
favorite
Land was
at one
the
point?
heavy favorite for what was
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Moonlight.
Moonlight, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Moonlight.
So I mean, there's a lot of upsets lately. There's a lot of Best Picture and Director splitting in recent years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see. We've got 1 week, gentlemen, and then all of our questions will be answered.
On Hollywood's biggest night.
we'll see you there, Hollywood
I'm gonna-
Island.
Breaking news: we are going to be the actual hosts of the show. So
Oh no,
The
Yeah,
big
we gotta
surprise.
stop. We gotta stop shit talking Martin Scorsese.
Marty's gonna kill us at the variety
Marty,
party.
I loved Mean Streets. Marty, come on.
Brent's going to be doing the red carpet, so he'll be talking about everything everyone's wearing, and Marty's going to go right by him.
Not
Brent's like,
not
I
that
wasn't even on that
Cold.
episode.
Cold shoulder time. Sorry, Brent. We messed you up, buddy.
Those ReconCinemation guys.
Yeah.
Keep them away from me. No problem, Marty.
Oh, guys, it has been awesome having you, all of us here talking about modern films for once.
Woo!
Nice.
Good times. Yeah.
Concinimation. Concinimized.
We could cinemized it.
I actually saw modern movies for this, Jonathan. So
Yeah.
Well, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming here. On our next episode, we have a big month of March. It's a certain person's birthday coming up, Mr. Kurt Russell. So we've got one of his films coming your way. We're going to be recognizing opening day for baseball season coming up too. So we got a fun lineup coming.
Nice.
Tune in.
Guys. Joe, Jarrod, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait till you guest on our regular episodes, and we'll have to have that sooner rather than later.
Well, thanks for having us.
Always a pleasure, my friends.
Yes.
What a
And
joy. What a joy.
David, anything to wrap up with?
Oh, no. Good. Enjoy yourself out there in America and the world. Movies are your friends.
There you
And
go.
be nice to your video store people. Be kind,
Exactly.
rewind. You know this one.
We have 1 week to write in for all categories Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Let's
So,
see what we can
right.
do. Yeah.
Getting those
I've
I've
ballots.
already started, John. I've already started.
Fantastic.
We're gonna retroactively try to get Secret of the Ooze some nominations as well.
Not
See what we can do.
Ninja Rap, best song.
All right, guys. Let's see what happens at the Oscars next week. It'll be an interesting show, and we will see you guys on the next ReconCinemation.
Cowabunga.
Wango.